All right. Well, it is my distinct honor to present to you Dr. Jeffrey Jim. He is the 47th president of the Midwestern Vascular Surgical Society. I'm glad the room is packed. I think this is, not to put too much pressure on JJ, but this is the part of the meeting that I usually look forward to. And just hearing some perspectives. Are you about to run out the door? Or?
I used to enjoy this part of it.
Yeah, I know. It's better as an audience member. But I want to spend a few minutes just making those of you who may not know JJ, and I hope you don't mind if I refer to you informally very well. And so I want to give you some perspective on JJ and how he navigated to this position as president of our society. So nice little cute baby picture of baby JJ. And here he is as the president of our society. JJ was born in Hong Kong. He came to the United States in 5th grade with his parents, Joseph and Libby, and his 2 older sisters, pictured here, Julia and Janice. And they moved to South Pasadena, California, and he spent most of his upbringing and his younger years in California before coming to the Midwest. He attended the University of Southern California in LA, where he earned a bachelor's degree, distinguished graduating magna cum laude, and he spent 2 additional years earning a master's degree in biochemistry and molecular biology. But more important than that, he met his future wife during his undergraduate studies, Jennifer, who is sitting in the front row here, so we're happy to have you here. You'll notice a common theme throughout this talk, and this is names that start with J. So we've got JJ, we've got his dad, Joseph, we've got Jennifer, and I'll introduce his 3 kids, all J's, Jocelyn, Justin, and JC. He once told his wife he was glad her name started with a J because if it didn't, either she wasn't the woman for him or she would have had to change her name in order to become part of JJ's family. He attended medical school at University of California, Irvine School of Medicine, and graduated in 2003, again distinguished for his performance as a member of AOA. And he was known as the most likely to pimp the medical students. This was, I believe, his fellow students voted this distinguishing quality of JJ. I don't know if any of his trainees can vouch for that. This is a photo of JJ and Jennifer on their wedding day. Residency training, he moved to UCLA Medical Center. He trained in general surgery for 5 years. And this was a busy time for JJ. The 5 years were spent clearly focusing on enhancing his surgical skills, but he had a few other areas that he also focused on. One was figuring out how to back into the parking garage to mask the fact that he had a USC license plate, which I guess is looked poorly upon at UCLA. I don't know. Maybe the Californians can vouch for that. The second is he and Jennifer welcomed twins, Justin and Jocelyn, who are sitting in the front row here, who are now 15, I believe. And so you can imagine it was a busy time. Another photo of JJ and Jennifer. So for fellowship training, JJ came to the Midwest, and he hasn't left the Midwest since. So you're wondering how he got here. He matched for vascular training at Washington University and spent 2 years here and welcomed JC, the youngest of the 3 children, to the family. So that's a picture of little baby JC, who's now 13 years old. His early career, the first 10 years were spent at WashU. So he worked his way up the academic scale to associate professor. As if one master's degree wasn't enough, he decided, let me just go for another one. So he earned a Master's of Population Health Sciences degree while he was there and became the program director of both the fellowship and the residency program. To this point, JJ's track record and reputation was pretty squeaky clean. He must have been liked well by his attendings as a fellow since they hired him on. Here's a nice photo of JJ along with Dr. Sicard and Frank Caputo, who I didn't recognize when I first saw the photo, but apparently if you look closely, JJ's got a nice big cigar in one hand that's hiding there, so at least he's got one bad habit that I was able to dig up. Not only his faculty and his colleagues liked JJ, but he was also very well liked by his patients. So he had 5-star reviews. You know how great online reviews are, but apparently he earned 5 stars for using regular words while talking to patients, acting professionally, and staying late to see patients who showed up late to the clinic. I was able to dig up this one unfortunate and sort of cringeworthy review. This is for real, and I don't know if JJ, you've seen this. You might want to figure out how to get rid of it. Please avoid this doctor at all costs. This is a 1.5-star review. He seems very distant. He blew me off. After seeing him, I had to seek a second opinion. Not personal or caring like I would expect, and this patient was very disappointed, I'm sorry to say. So where is JJ now? We know he's somewhere here in Minneapolis, right? So I Googled you, and apparently you've let your hair grow long and you've dyed it a lighter color, because this is what I found on the web. But as many of you know, in 2020, he left WashU for higher level leadership aspirations, and he moved to Allina Health Minneapolis Heart Institute, where he remains. And he serves as Vice President of the Vascular Surgery Service Line and Chair of the Section of Vascular and Endovascular Surgery. Also, Program Director of their Vascular Surgery Fellowship in 2021 at Abbott Northwestern Hospital. I have had many laughs with JJ and a great time working with him along the course of years. And maybe for the students in the room, you sort of wonder, how does an individual work their way up to the presidency of their regional vascular association? And JJ has a long line of dedication and work that he put into the society. But I think he states it very well in his presidential message. He said, "I remember fondly how welcoming and collegial and friendly the members of the society were when I attended my first meeting presenting research as a vascular surgery fellow in 2009. So for those of you in the room who came here for the first time today, you may be standing up here giving your presidential address someday. And I think JJ really enhances that environment, right? We're a regional society, so we see ourselves as a welcoming organization, especially for students and trainees in a smaller setting. So he became a member of this organization as a new faculty in 2010, and since then he's dedicated a lot of time and effort to making the organization better. He co-chaired the Industry Relations Committee, co-directed the Advanced Practice course. He chaired the program committee and served as secretary for 3 years, president-elect, and of course he spent the past year as president of our organization. While most of the focus of my introduction so far has been professional, JJ clearly loves vascular surgery. He also loves his family. They love to travel together. The picture on the left, I believe, is a family photo from Turks and Caicos. JJ's kids have been cited at many a vascular surgery meeting. There's a picture in DC on the right. JJ looking very dapper with his beautiful wife at the Gatsby Gala at this year's VAM in June. And JJ with his 2 older sisters, who I think hopefully guided you very well and had something to do with your winding up here today. So in addition to his regular family, he has actually an extended vascular surgery family. JJ has developed very close connections and close friendships with the guys in the front row here, Jason Lee, Mal Sheehan, and Dave Rigberg in particular. This photo is at one of the vascular meetings where the group gets together, and I am told that not only they are good friends, the wives, and also the kids. And from what I understand, the kids have a group text with the Sheehan and Lee kids that is called My Vascular Besties Kids Edition. something like that. So that's really very nice. He has developed many friends and colleagues over the course of his career. Jason tells me that there's sort of a joke or going around about how Chinese parents or ancestors are so hopeful that their progeny over the course of the years in the United States succeed, and so there's sort of somewhat of a internal pat themselves on the back when any of the group publishes a paper, gets promoted, their trainee does something great, they hashtag success each other just to sort of root each other on. And this is a photo at the VEST meeting when Jason Lee served as president, so everyone was there supporting him. JJ has a few other passions. Snowboarding is one. He has another passion that I think anyone who knows him knows very well, and it's something to do with sports. He is a huge Giants fan. Okay. I know nothing about baseball, but I heard maybe there might be a little bit of a competitive nature. Okay, he loves the Dodgers. JJ is a huge Dodgers fanatic, so he talks about the Dodgers, he thinks about the Dodgers, and everything's about the Dodgers. He also has a second family, his second wife. This is his Dodgers wife, I'm told, Dave Rigberg. And so the picture on the left were their cardboard cutouts during the pandemic when the stadium was shut down to fans, and so they were there virtually at least. So what's next for JJ? You know, is it all downhill from here after your presidency? So I just want to let everyone know that JJ does have other plans and aspirations. He's not going to sort of wither away. He's actually established a new organization. He's the founder and the president-elect of a new organization called the BDESVS. I don't know if you know, we'll have applications in the back. That's the Best Dads Ever Society for Vascular Surgeons. So if you want to join, here's a photo of the past president and the current president. He will speak for hire, so if anyone's interested, he actually has agreed to waive his honorarium fee. He'll come. He just needs free Dodgers tickets in exchange. So if you live in a city that has a baseball team and the Dodgers are visiting, grab a few tickets and he'll come talk about TCAR anytime for free. He's also, this is a photo of JJ with, he's usually got the 9 kids around him at the VAM meeting or other meetings, so he'll often register for a meeting, but then he's in charge of the child care. So if you are attending any vascular meeting and you do have children, call JJ and he and Jennifer would be happy to take them around so that you could actually attend the meeting in peace. And so, JJ, I didn't want to leave this one, like, sort of black mark on your reputation here. So I felt like I needed to do my due diligence to clear you of this horrible review. So I was able to actually get the clinic records from WashU, and I cross-referenced them with the Dodgers game schedule, and I actually found out that at the time of this patient's visit, you weren't in the clinic. So that might explain why you felt so distant. He was taking selfies of himself at an away Dodgers game at the time. And actually, we realized the patient had an appointment with his cardboard cutout, not the actual JJ. So that explains everything. So I want to leave you with this one little video, which I think will show JJ in a different light for those who haven't seen him at a baseball game. Can we get the audio? That is JJ. Okay, and So I hope that familiarizes everyone a little bit more with JJ, and I'm super excited about your talk. So JJ, there's no escaping now. Get up here and let's start it.
Wow. Can we not put that on the YouTube video, please? Thank you very much. You have to give a presidential address, and it's not something new. As Bernadette said, it's always one of my favorite parts of the meeting, until you have to be the person that gives it. So, you start off with this and say, well, I got to give a presidential address, and I really don't know what I want to talk about. So, Angela was bugging me about it. Ross was like, you got to come up with a title. I said, I don't know what it's going to be. Just going to be presidential address. So I said, you know what? I can do something different, right? It's new generation, new vascular surgery. I had such a good time last year. Why didn't I just do the same thing I did last year? Let me just make fun of Raghu, right? You guys were there, right? I talked about how many vows I had to buy to get his name in there. He has an incredible amount of, credentials in there. And I think the most important thing I have to say, I failed. I told him to bring back the stash, and he didn't. So maybe this year he can do it. So for those of you who haven't seen it, you can get the full version when you listen. There's nothing like him singing. The eye rolls, that's what you get me every time. So I've done that, and it's all archived on YouTube. So I said, you know what, I got to do something different. So I said, what else can I do? Well, clearly one thing is we cannot count in this society, because I thought I was the 45th and I may be the 47th. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go introduce the next president. Nobody's ever done that. I'm going to go introduce the 46th or maybe 47th or 8th, I'm not actually sure anymore, President Dr. Bernadette Olivola. Really, she also has just as many letters behind her name. So I thought about doing that, but she's always very serious. I'm not sure, if she's going to like this. So I got kind of afraid, and I said, I better not. I better do something different. So, what else do you do? When you do a research and stuff, you look at what other societies do, right? So you guys saw me. I was at the MVSS meeting. Matt Corey had a great speech, but that was COVID, so did that really count, right? But, I went to the one where Jason talked, and some idiot just talked about, Greek mythology, Achilles' heel. I didn't understand. I'm like, we can't do that here. We're better than that. We're a Midwestern regional society. So I said, let's look and see what's going on. I'm from the West. You guys figure that out. Western, I actually don't know what they do. They just go do luau's. They go horseback riding. They play tennis. I hear about that all the time, so, that's not really good. But, I looked at other societies. I look at New England. They're pretty proper. And if you guys haven't, one of the things I started doing was looking at other people's speeches. If you guys haven't, really, I think this is worth a look. Mark Schermerhorn gave a really good talk about, his history, his past. He's talking about his ancestors. Like, I moved here when I was 10, man. I don't have a lot of history. They're just in Asia. So I said, that's not going to work. So what else can I talk about? What I'm passionate about, what I want to share with everybody. Right now it's like 11:20. Ross, can I get about 5 hours? Because I'm going to talk about the Dodgers. This is exactly what I want to spend my time talking about. I can talk about this all day. But then I remember Kelly said, hey, listen, I don't care what you say. If you talk about the Dodgers, I'm getting up and walking away. So I said, I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in there. But really, I think, this is a scientific meeting. We're going to do data, right? Because this is all about research. So I thought, Dave, I should talk about, let's talk about the Astros. I can give you data about how these people cheated, right? Banged on the trash cans, and really, when it's said and done, they stole the World Series. But you know what? I don't want to be negative. I'm just going to enjoy the time I had in 2017, thinking about this. So at this point, I said, you know what? No, it's okay. You guys don't want a baseball. You guys don't understand. So that's fine. Let's talk about the presidential address. So again, why reinvent something new? Let's look at what other people have done. So I look back at our past presidents, right? The more recent one, where's Dr. Matos? Somewhere in there, right there. He talked about service to society. You can see he's a tireless advocate for the Midwestern Vascular. I remember that talk very well. Jean Starr, she talked about, I actually don't remember. She just talked about chicks with knives, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So I thought that was really great. Kelly talked about some of the challenges that we have, burnout. And Raghu talked a little bit about, the challenges of being a foreign graduate. So I thought, these are all great talks, and you're like, I can't steal any of it. But one thing I can steal, I do realize, I have to say thank you, right? One of the things you have to do when you get up here is thank all the people that's been there for you. So obviously, in the front of the room is somebody very, very important to me. One of the most important people ever in there. Ross Milner. I mean, I cannot do this job without Ross. I mean, you know, you guys know we're very close, become very close friends working here. This was very random. I happened to be in Chicago and happened to catch him many years ago on his 50th birthday. So anytime, you know, in April 24, when you guys are in Chicago, stop by. He was going to celebrate his 60th at that point. Now, you guys all, you know, it's joking. Hey, he's kind of like my Midwestern person, but really, I think we have to spend time talking about a significant other, right? That's the most important thing in your life. We all have one of those. You guys know, right? So you guys, we always talk about, you ever want to find that person that looks at you, you know, the way you know, when somebody looks at you, when somebody you really, really love. This is exactly what I got many years ago in California when I got assigned Dave Rickberg as my mentor. This is the way I looked at him. And, you know, the pandemic, we didn't love it, right? We didn't learn very much, but you did figure out who you were willing to hang out with. I decided, as you guys saw, I decided to quarantine with this dude at Dodger Stadium for the whole pandemic. So this is, again, I don't know why, you know, I was able to, you know, get him a good, nice 50th birthday present. Man, I hang out with old people. You know, but again, if you happen to be Santa Monica in August 2024 next year, you can celebrate his 60th birthday party with him. So, no, really, all kidding aside, I always introduce her as my better half and probably my better complete. You guys know Jennifer. Most of you guys have gotten a chance to meet her. You guys saw this picture. This is one of the happiest days of my life in August 11, 2001. I was able to dig back a little bit, and I was able to find this. This is my yearbook page from medical school. She's been there through the whole thing. She went through undergrad and went through medical school. When I was mostly at residency and not at home, she's been through it all, raising the kids. And this is, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago, this is us celebrating our 22nd anniversary. So I don't know what else to say except I love you very much. You make the best, you are the best of me. You complete me, and I can't say anything except thank you. It is true I chose her because her name was Jay, but that doesn't matter anymore. You know, it's interesting. This is my family. This is how we started in the Midwest. Look at the little ones up there, and now they're like regular people. It's kind of weird. You know, if you look back to minis, you guys got introduced to them. These are the twins. We brought them over. I remember sitting on the lap, getting on a plane, 2008, sitting on the thing, and then a couple years later, there's little JC, a little girl that joined us. And now they're, again, you know, this is Jace right here, and now we have a whole family. So I realize, I'm hoping you guys are enjoying this, because they were really worried. They're like, why are we going there? We're not going to understand any of this stuff. But, you know, hopefully you get an idea of what we do, what I'm passionate about outside of work. I hope you guys realize I do everything for you guys. Once you guys have a life, that's great. And I want to thank you every day. I do still love the kisses at night, so don't forget those. I don't want to say thank you. Sorry, Ross, I know I haven't even started my dress yet. So, you know, to be fair, I do think about this, and I remember last year sitting there during Ragu's talk, and I said, oh man, I got to give a talk. I really got to think about this. So you planned ahead and said, right, you know, I'm going to have a year. I want to get this done on time, so I don't have to do it like, you know, I surely was not doing slides this morning. I want to think about this, and one of the things I thought about was, wow, man, I really love my specialty. You know, I really have a great time. Everything that we do is great. So I said, you know what, I'm going to talk about I heart vascular surgery. This is going to be great. You know, and I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to write this up. I'm going to get it published, easy publication, right? Presidential address, they got to publish it. I'm going to sit there and write a love letter to vascular surgery and say, wait a second. I don't think I've ever written a love letter, and there's a woman in front that's going to get really, really pissed. Never mind Dave and Ross. So I said, nope, no love letter for me. It's not a great idea, but, you know, that was sort of the theme, and that's what I thought, you know, be very cheery about it. But I think healthcare is pretty challenging in 2023, right? It's been a challenging few years, and I think, you know, over the past few years, it just magnified some of the problems that are probably underlying. Healthcare is not doing great. Financially, the hospitals are not working well. The stability of the entire healthcare system in the country is at risk. Many hospitals, including in the Midwest that we work at, are significantly losing money. We're hoping to get out of it, but you know, you're losing millions per day just taking care of people. So that's all entire healthcare. Let's talk about vascular surgery. It seems like we're under attack all the time. This is the NCD coming from CMS. It came out a few months ago, out of the blue. a procedure that we love and we care about, carotid endarterectomy, may be under threat again. We thought we fought this war and realized that endarterectomy is superior. Transfemoral stenting isn't so good. CMS opened it up, made some comments. They didn't care. That's okay. We asked for more comments. They probably still don't care. But I think the reality is transfemoral stenting is going to be back, and that's going to take over a little bit of what we love and we enjoy. We also saw this too, pretty significant. A lot of lay press, ProPublica report, New York Times, never mind the SVS Connect war that everybody was sort of having. This is not a good thing. Seems like for me, over the past few months, vascular surgery, our specialty, something that we love, is constantly under attack, and what can we really do about it? So as I reflected, I thought, having a speech just that says, I love vascular surgery, may be a little out of touch. In addition, there's more. I can't really read that far, but it seems like, if you read all these, you pick up JVS, there's always an article about burnout, right, which is real. I think all of us feel some aspect of it. It's just how well you adapt to it. There's a lot of issues in terms of looking at gender. I'm obviously fortunate to be a guy. I don't have to deal with some of the ones that our female counterparts have to deal with. Physical pain, right? Maybe just getting old. I talk to my old friends all the time. They're 60 years old, man. They could barely walk. I feel uncomfortable when I operate, right? There's definitely physical pain with our procedure based on the way we bend over, turn our heads, wearing headlights, all that. That's real. There's a lot of issues even with our trainees. It's not just with the practicing surgeons. This is somehow funneled down to people that we're trying to help. So that's disappointing to know that there's a lot of discrimination, gender biases, So when you look at this, this is not painting a very, very good picture. I do want to point out a couple people. Obviously, Mao Sheehan, he's in the front of the room, a good friend, and also Don Coleman, who I will always consider part of the MVSS. So they're obviously spearheading this effort. Really important to point out some of this stuff. But honestly, Mao, can you just write about something happier, man? So with that being said, I was like, all right, I'm going to have to really write this at some point because September is around the corner. I really got to do something. And I was pretty angry. I was really angry, and I wanted to be very careful. I do realize I have a voice, and everything gets recorded, so it's going to be forever, so I have to be careful. But, I'm a big baseball person, and not to sort of, compare what I'm talking about to somebody dealing with the disease, but there's a really pretty famous baseball journalist, a researcher who's dealing with ALS. But she's always eternally optimistic, and one of her phrases is, baseball is the best. Despite having, a debilitating disease, she covers it. This is her lifelong passion, and she always says baseball's best. Her joyous attitude is what I'm going to try to take here. I want to be a little bit Pollyanna about this. I still want to stick to my same message as last year, which is, when it's said and done, I heart vascular surgery. I want to talk a little bit about vascular surgery is the best. And more importantly, how are we going to keep it that way? So bear with me a little bit because we're going to talk a little bit about, vascular surgery. Vascular surgery is unique, right? I think we know that. My introduction to vascular surgery, I'll talk a little bit about that. Some of these faces you'll recognize. Dr. Fujitani, he's a vascular attending at UC Irvine. When I first met him, he was always universally loved by all the medical students. Great technical surgeon, always took the time with students. He actually showed us how to be a good doctor. A couple other people there. Dr. Kabaska came from Cleveland Clinic, so some of you guys may have trained with him or trained him. He was a junior attending. I don't think he realized how much of an impact he came just talking about how excited he was about his specialty. Talking about endovascular interventions. I was completely blown away by what they were doing at that facility. J.C. Jimenez was a resident, became a future fellow. He was always very enthusiastic about it as well. And really, I think, the biggest part of me is I always wanted to go at a big site, and I trained at UCLA. And I think most of you guys know this group of people. If you look at top giants of the vascular surgery, Dr. Moore, to this day, is still dedicating himself to educating us. He still runs a course that all of us get the privilege to attend as trainees, and he's still tirelessly doing this. Dr. Quinones, an expert technician. Just to be able to watch him in the operating room is a pleasure. Dr. Gelibert shows us how to dedicate himself to the family while taking good care of patients and teaching. VA faculty always took the time to help us and teach us. I think you guys know what Dr. Lawrence means to me. When I introduced him last year, he was a mentor that's been there. He was selfless. He always wanted to care about what I wanted. He didn't really care about what his program needed. At UCLA, it was always about me, and I'll always be forever indebted for that. Dr. Rigberg, my mentor, I always like to say, despite that, I succeeded, I think. But honestly, his lifelong friendship has been amazing to me. And a couple other people, the residents, J.C. Pareda and Jess O'Connell, really people that were senior residents who taught me to be the doctor that I am and also showed me the love of vascular surgery. I think we all know this. Vascular surgery is the best because we are unique. This is literally the definition we have of vascular surgery. Vascular surgery is a specialty that involves disease of the arterial, venous, and lymphatic circulatory systems, exclusive of the circulatory vessels intrinsic to the heart and intracranial vessels. Really, we're the specialists that demonstrate the knowledge, skill, understanding of the medical science relative to the vascular system, as well as having the mature technical skills and surgical judgment. We are the best because we are unique. We're the only providers that can provide longitudinal care of patients. We can take care of little babies all the way till the end of life. Not a lot of people can say that. We are able to medically manage patients. We can also do open surgical procedures. We can do invasive endovascular techniques. And we can debate about which one is better, which one's the F1, which one's the NASCAR, right? We talked about that yesterday. But the idea is we're able to give, comprehensive care of the disease state rather than simply the procedures. Not a lot of other specialties can do that. We are unique in that. Vascular surgery is the best. You guys have all heard this before, right? We say this, and students, you guys probably have heard this. You know, what do you do when a patient needs medical help? Call a medical doctor, right? So you guys know this, right? I don't think I made this up. When a medical doctor needs help, who do they call? Anybody? They call a surgeon, right? When a surgeon needs help, who do they call? Vascular surgeon, right? We all know that. So this is something that really tells us what's unique about us. We are different, and we are great, and because, you know, of what we do. This was coined several years ago by the group at USC. Fred Reaver looked at his work, and this is, you know, we started becoming known as a fire person of the hospital. I think it's something we've all known, but I think it kind of put a label onto it. We really help a lot of services in the hospital. The paper is pretty interesting if you guys haven't read it, but you can see the list on the left side. It's all the different specialties that we help out in the hospital. If you look at those cases that we do, it's a little bit of a busy chart, but if you look at the little pie charts or the bar graphs in the middle, for the planned consults, if they plan to call us, the case mix index is so complicated that nobody else can handle it unless we get called in. Even the cases that, you know, they have unplanned consults, it tells you how much more complicated it is. These things cannot happen without us being there. And I think all of us know that, but I think we need to spread the word. It's really important to let people know. I think for the longest time, we've been hiding out, just doing the things, walking in, walking out. We really need to spread the word. We need to own vascular disease in the community. Do whatever you can, take care of all the educational opportunities that are out there. Sometimes it's direct to patient. You may get asked to go to some random place to give a talk to a bunch of people, vascular disease, but you should do that. They need to know who vascular surgeons are. You get the opportunity to go give maybe a lunch or dinner or something, or go to some office, talk to other healthcare providers, referring providers. Definitely do that. Nobody knows what we do. We need to let them know. We're the ones with the complete toolbox. We have everything that we can. We all need to work with different specialties. We need to be able to collaborate. We have to explain what we do and how we can help them. More importantly, I think we need to let the hospital administration and leadership knows what we do, because I think we're very undervalued. The SVS had this work group that sort of showed this. Again, there's a couple papers cited there. If you guys haven't read it, it's really important to read it. The value of the modern vascular surgeon in the healthcare system. This is a report from the valuation work group. If you look at it, the little graphic on the right side, basically the idea is the tip of the iceberg. People barely know what we do. We're there, but we do a lot more than just, you know, doing vascular surgery and doing some of those cases that they don't understand. Are you supposed to be in the cath lab? Are you doing open? Are you doing endo? We're much more than that. We're there to make sure that we promote a safe environment. We let them go ahead and do other service lines. We let them do other cases that otherwise they're not going to be able to do because we're there to back them up. You need to take the ownership of this. You need to make sure people in your hospital system know that. Your medical school, your chiefs, your deans, your hospital presidents, CMO, they need to understand what you're doing. We need to become leaders in vascular quality. We may be small in number, but we're really knowledgeable. We kind of have a very diverse experience of what we do. We got to focus on quality. We got to look at patient outcomes and experience. That's important. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. We got to look at cost effectiveness care, independent of just specialty. We can't sit there and have these, arguments with people. We're better because we're vascular surgeons, or you're not as good because you're not. We got to talk about it. Who's actually giving better cost effective care? Know the latest data, right? Go to the meetings, understand the guidelines. We got to be very proactive and practice appropriate evidence-based medicine. That's something that sometimes we get away from, and we need to be advocates for that. How do we do that? We'll be involved, right? It's not going to be easy, but you have to be at peer review. You have to be honest. When somebody's doing something wrong, even if it's your colleague or yourself, bring it up, acknowledge it, and move on. Try to get better. You need to be part of the procedural credentialing committee, right? We need to be able to make sure that appropriate people are doing procedures, do it in a fair way. Be in multidisciplinary conference, look at care conferences, be part of stroke centers. You know, I have people that want to do transdermal stenting in my institution. I'm not against that, as long as they do it in the right people with good results. Because ultimately, when it's said and done, it's not about what a vascular surgeons want, it's what's best for the patient. So I think that's something we got to work on, but vascular surgery is also the best because we innovate. Now, this is the next part of my life, and I went to WashU, so a big significant change to get me out of West Coast to the Midwest, and Dr. Sicard clearly had that gravitational pull. I trained, this was probably the reason I decided to go there, but of course I met a whole lot of other faculty members that are there. I just thought it'd be funny to find these old pictures of them because they don't, nothing like this anymore. But, you know, be able to learn from all of them. You know, Luis Sanchez is still in the audience. He's obviously running the group, taking over from Sanchez. Dr. Rubin, Dr. Thompson, Dr. Garrity, and a couple of attendees no longer at WashU, Dr. Kirchi and Dr. Choi. If you look at the list, we're doing pretty good here. All right, we got the 22nd, 31st, and 39th, and I think I'm the 46th president. So even though I'm no longer at WashU, I'm probably going to always think of myself that way. If you guys will have me, I'll be the 4th president from the Western Vascular. Of course, you know, we all go through training. You really can't survive training without the fellows. I literally have no idea how these guys survive all of us. These attendings are great. This is a couple of the pictures that we took. The people that are ahead of me, people behind me, become a close group of friends. You can see on the bottom there, that's you know, Andres with some crazy headgear when we were fellows together. Lost some hair, but sexy as always. He was trying to be here early today, but he had to go home because he's welcoming a second child. So I thought it was okay to let him go home for that. But, you know, this is what really brought me to the Midwest, and I think we'll talk a little bit about our area. I think vascular care in the Midwest is just a little bit different. When I came to WashU, I kept getting lost for like about 6-7 months. I just could not find, because there was like 1,600 beds. Every time I get called to somewhere else. I think there's something unique about the healthcare provider, healthcare system in the Midwest. We have gigantic hospitals. Not that they don't have big hospitals at UCLA, Stanford, LSU, but we have really big hospitals everywhere. And really, we take a lot of, you know, surrounding areas. We take care of a lot of rural areas. And I think because of that, we have an ability to get really significantly high clinical volumes that you may not otherwise get in a bigger populated city. Because of that, you have a lot of opportunities to advance vascular care by innovation. Some of the examples I saw during training, peripheral arterial disease, a lot of this with Pat Garrity, you know, he always was in the front line of incorporating endovascular devices in the toolbox. We're surgeons, but he always wanted to learn. He tested and studied and researched novel stents, drug-eluting technology, national PIs on trials, looking at weird devices, tacking things up. But really, I think the most important thing is, despite, you know, adopting this, we always remember who we are. We maintain expertise in standard open surgical reconstruction. Remember, you know, you guys have all heard this. Everything looks like a nail when you have hammer. We got way more than that. And that's something that's important about what we do. We've been able to maintain the entire treatment options to develop the best, you know, patient-specific treatment plan, which is very unique. Something I love, I'm going to talk a little bit about carotid disease. Carotid endarterectomy. I think literally you walked into the clinic office in the 1990s, you got a carotid endarterectomy. We love the procedure, one of the reasons why I went to the vascular surgery, right? But we also realized that don't really need it very often. So guess what? We scaled back. The amount of carotid endarterectomies went down because we realized not everybody needed it. So we did that for our patients, not because we were worried about our views and procedures and what we liked. Transdermal stenting, as we talked about, really didn't understand it, but we still learned it. We tried to refine it. We tried to improve the technique. But we also accepted some limitations. We knew when to push the envelope. We also know when to stop. A little bit of disclosure, obviously. I have some, I thought I had a disclosure slide too, sorry. I don't know what happened to it. Transcarotid artery vascularization, I'll say it now. It's really important to have your disclosures. I work for Silk Road Medical, teaching other physicians. That's how I've gotten a chance to meet with you. But doesn't mean I can't speak about it. Transcarotid vascularization, I didn't know what the heck it was. But as a vascular surgeon, I was curious. I thought there was potential, so we adopted it. My role is to make sure that, hey, when we're going to do this, we got to do it right. So one of the things I'm actually proud of is when I go teach the course, I don't care if you do the procedure, but if you're going to do it, I want to make sure you do it right. And that's what vascular surgeons do. We got to make sure we protect the patients. Aortic disease. This is all mostly Louis and Sicard, right? We obviously adopted endovascular repair in the right patients. We still remember the Chicks with Knives Club. We got to remember the scalpel. There are times that we do that. We continue to push the envelope, but we are special. We are a unique group of specialists that can go ahead and have skills that combine endovascular as well as open surgical skills. So TBEs, we talk about that quite a bit. Right? This is one of the cases I did recently. We're uniquely able to do something like that. This is one of the first cases I got to scrub in with Louis, got to hang out and watch him. This is one of his first double branches. He's a national PI in this. Dr. Milner, national PI in endospan, archwork. We are uniquely qualified to be able to do this because we know how to operate and we know how to do endovascular skills. I think that, no other specialty can really claim that uniformly. So how do we innovate? We got to proceed, we be familiar with new technology. We got to proceed with some conservative optimism. It took me a long time before I adopted TCAR. Everybody thinks I do it. I'm still very conservative because I only pick the right patients for it. But I think we as vascular surgeons need to lead, oftentimes, and partner with other societies and specialties in aortic disease treatment, even saying ascending aortic diseases. It's always been the territory of another specialty with CT surgeries, but we have the unique skill set to be able to partner with them because we're the ones that are familiar with the endovascular techniques. Biobanking, we heard about that yesterday. We have a unique ability to be able to go ahead and encounter patients, learn about that disease process. Carotid revascularization. How many people can sit there and say they can do all the different revascularization techniques except for a vascular surgeon? Limb salvage. That's a huge debate. I'm going to try to stay away from that because I don't want to get on SVS Connect, but that's really, we need to be able to collaborate and look at that. We should be able to lead that. Per teams. And obviously use of AI. I really don't understand it. I try to use GPT to give my talk. It didn't work out, so this is why you're stuck listening to this. So the last thing I want to talk about is, we also adapt and evolve. This is one of the things about our specialty. We always try to be a little bit better and adopt to the time. So I want to focus on something that's a passion of mine and some of the idiots in the front row here as well, vascular surgery training. When I started looking into vascular surgery way back in the day, 20 years ago, you do 1 year after general surgery and you're pretty much done. But we realized that's not going to work. So over time, this has sort of evolved. In 2006, the integrated residency pathway started, and this is basically allows people to go straight from medical schools, and we have a lot of people graduating, and we've shown now over the years that they're just as good surgeons as the classic pathway, so those myths have been completely dispelled. In addition, we've also went from a 2-year training now because there's just too much for us to learn. We want to be good at what we do. 1 year is a little too quick. We decided to train for a couple of years. More importantly, a few years ago, you used to have to do this as a medical school or affiliated with the general surgery program. Now, if you have any interest and you have a program, you have the case volume, you can just do this. One of the things I'm always looking at is that going to be enough? Do we have a sufficient vascular workforce? I think we all know, we have seen some of these, right? The AAMC report, really, we don't have enough surgeons. This is going to be a problem. This is actually a paper that was published in 2013. You guys have seen it over and over. I just realized when I put this up yesterday, I was like, wow, they're talking about 2025. That's like right around the corner when these guys turn 60. Vascular surgery was called out really because, vascular surgery never gets looked at in almost anything. You try to look up, data as whatnot, it's never there, but it's called out specifically as one of the specialties that's going to have the biggest issue. This is not new. This is something we've known about. This is something that was published in 1996. Dr. Stanley, among others, talked about how we're going to have a problem a little bit later. This is Michael. I think Michael's in there somewhere. I can't see him now in the crowd. But Michael taught us about this about over 15 years ago also. We're going to have a shortage. We're going to run out of vascular surgeons. I got interested in this when I was a junior faculty, wrote a paper and realized, holy crap, people are getting older, a lot of vascular disease or cardiovascular risk factors. We're going to need a lot more vascular surgeons. And this is not unique to the U.S. It's all over the world. I cited some of the international papers with it. So this is a significant problem. Michael wrote a little update recently. So he was a lot more optimistic than I am, but he says, we're going to be fine, though. We're going to be fine. Maybe he was, we're doing a good job. We're going to be fine. But if you really look at it, there's some caveats to that. So when you guys go home, the take-home message from this presidential address is you're going to have to go home and work at least 22% more in your RVUs. That's going to be really important. But I think the challenge of this is we may be okay if there's certain things that are met. We got to continue to increase the number of trainees, but more importantly, other things like burnout, changing practice patterns, geographic maldistribution, expansion of healthcare coverage and utilization is probably going to significantly affect us, and that's a problem. So we need to do better. We need to recruit. So how do we do that? Some of the things we've done in our society and other societies as well. We have a specific medical student program. This is something that happens, you can see different components of hands-on, virtual, different aspects of it, but we have a medical student education thing that we do. A lot of societies do that. Generous support of the APDVS, that's really why I invited you, Mal, to make sure you brought the check from APDVS. We do that. What else can we do? This is something partnered by APDVS and SVS. Every year or so at the VAM, Mal and I will sit in a room and talk about how to start a new vascular training program. Usually it's just him and I talking to each other. Sometimes our friend will visit, but we have done some differences. We've been able to gain some programs. So I think we've done okay, Mal. Over the past several years, I look back. This is me looking specifically yesterday. Over the past 5 years or so, we have 17 new fellowship programs across the country, 5 in the Midwest, and 21 residency programs, also 5 in the Midwest. I was talking to somebody here earlier yesterday. They just submitted the application. Hopefully it'll be a 6th one in their area soon. But we're doing really well. We've only lost 2 fellowship programs because one of them changed to a residency. So we're doing pretty well in terms of getting more. As of yesterday, we have 119 fellowship programs and 76 residency programs. Overall, this is what we're looking at in terms of the number of training positions. We're doing a great job of getting more positions, getting people into the pipeline. So when it's said and done, there's going to be somebody available to take care of all of us. Now, the great news about this is the recruitment part, we're doing a great job. There's a whole bunch of interest. Everything is matched. There's always more applicants and things. But the concern I have is this going to be enough? And I worry ultimately it is not. So we have to do a little bit more. So how can you do to help? Can you guys not retire? That's pretty much one of the things we have to. The data says something about 40% of us in vascular surgeons is going to think about retiring in the next 10 years. I was hoping to do the same so we can go to the beach, Jen. But I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to have to be available to take care of patients. What else can you do? Be part of an advocate. We don't talk about that too much, but advocacy is a thing. You may not like it. It seems weird. I get it. It's strange. Why am I buying time with somebody to talk about some law? But it is really important. Resident Physician Shortage Reduction Act of 2023. This is in Congress now, hopefully, to be able to elevate and change the number of caps to be able to sponsor more graduate medical education positions. You want to somehow be more geographically diverse? That's a little tough ask. I know it's going to be hard for you to be able to go move yourself to a rural area, but can you do some outreach clinics? Maybe provide care, because when we're not there, somebody else is going to step up. Even if you go on a monthly basis, see those patients, bring them back for surgery, something I've learned in the Midwest, and it works really, really well. And you're going to collaborate with other providers as well. There's just not enough vascular surgeons, and one of the things our society probably hasn't done well enough is to promote the advanced practice providers that we have. They're great people that can help take care of our patients, work together with us. I'm very proud. I think Todd Vogel, I can't see anybody out there. Hopefully you're there. He spearheaded an effort this year where we had our first program just, separate just for our APPs, and I was really happy that we were able to do that. The last thing is I think all vascular surgeons have to contribute to the education of trainees to ensure the future success of our specialty. This is not just up to the program directors. This is not up to faculty only. This is literally, I think, all of us. This is going to take a village to be able to replenish, to be able to help us get more vascular surgeons out there. How can you help? A lot of opportunities even within the Midwest. Yesterday, some of you guys, if you guys came early, we had a really robust simulation session. We were able to get industry partners to help us, but to help train our trainees. We work in simulation. They get to practice. That's a great opportunity for you to get involved in our society. You can volunteer. You can be part of the mock oral committee or give mock orals. We help them get prepared for the board exam, so that's another opportunity. Finally, I want you to think about your clinical practice. Do you think your clinical practice volume is enough to support a training program? Right? Really think about that if you're not in a training program right now. This is a paper that Dr. Lee at Stanford wrote, and we alluded to it yesterday. If you look at it, most of the cases are done in big aorta cases are done in academic centers, but still up to about 20+% of them are not. So there's a lot of opportunities. We all can't be at Cleveland Clinic where they have just loads and loads of open aortic surgeries. We need to get that for our trainees. Do you have enough to start a training program? If you do, we got a couple guys who are willing to help you walk you all the way through it. It's not that hard. If you don't think you have enough of a training program, maybe think about something a little bit different. Do you think you have enough, but you may not want to do your own program? Can you do something like a hospital rotation, right? Community practice hospital rotation. There's a lot of hospitals adjacent to medical schools, and I want everybody out there to think about it. You work in a big academic centers. Are there places in your community that could be a good rotation for your trainees? If you're in the community practice, Would you be willing to host a trainee to come hang out with you? They're usually pretty good. They'll send the seniors. They know what they're doing. They know how to open and close, and you can trust them, and it's really rewarding. Add it potentially as a part of the existing program. It doesn't just have to be aortic. You guys do a lot of great things in the community. I've changed practice a little bit, so we know all the great things are out there. This is something I'm doing at my hospital. We're going to add a second site who've never had trainees before. It's a lot less administrative barrier. This is something that's easily achievable. Obviously, we understand there's some limitations with money, but those things can be worked out. This is not going to increase the number of programs, but it's going to help us find more people, be able to train more physicians. Finally, vascular surgery is the best because I think we are resilient and we really support each other. So as I near the end of this talk, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to my family, not only the ones in front. I want to acknowledge, obviously, I think all of us should think about our family members. It's a little weird when we go for training and we basically disappear for about 7+ years. When you come back for holidays, you can only eat Christmas lunch because you're on call on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and every time you go home, you just fall asleep on the couch. So definitely thank my family members. I want to thank my patients, maybe not the one who wrote that review. But I really always say that I can't believe how much they trust us to be essentially put their lives on our hands, and I'm always very grateful for their trust. I want to thank my staff. They really don't make, our lives don't happen without the administrative support, the clinical support that's out there. I'm pretty awful at this. I think all of us are. We just don't say thank you enough. And there's a lot of clinical mentors out there that I know I do a horrible job at saying thank you. So I want to say that, and I'll try to make it an effort to make sure I contact them individually, but all of you guys know who you are out there. I want to say thank you. The next group, I got to say, trainees. I did honestly note, it wasn't made up, sadly. I was voted the most likely to pimp a medical student when I was a medical student myself. I know I'm always very hard for my trainees, and I've seen a bunch of them out there. I do this because I want the best out of you. And I want to say thank you because this, what you guys are around really kind of makes my life, interesting. It makes it really worthwhile. And really, I think I definitely don't say thank you enough to all of you guys who are out there. So this is the only time you're going to get it. And don't video this. I thank all my colleagues. This cannot be done without support from everybody. And you guys know, obviously, I consider all of you guys my friends. I think one of the things about Midwestern Vascular is really we're a very close collegial group, and I do want to thank you. These are just random pictures I've taken of times that I've spent in the Midwestern Vascular. It's truly been an amazing journey. And Bernadette sort of mentioned, I started as a fellow presenting in Chicago, didn't quite understand what was going on, and now actually get up to the podium and waste about 45 minutes of your time. Some specific people in the Midwestern Vascular I definitely want to thank. There's this guy, Pat Garrity, who, if you don't know Pat, I will tell you, he literally listens to music that nobody's ever heard of. I do miss the days where I would randomly forget that he's in the wall across me, and I would bump some loud rap, hip-hop barbecue radio station on my office, and he would come down and be like, "What are you doing, man?" And he would go back, put on some LL Cool J, "Welcome back to Cali," and I'll be like, "I don't think I'm going back, man." But, I do miss those times. Pat was somebody who introduced me to society, always encouraged me as a junior faculty, submit papers, show up, and that really got me involved in society. Dr. Leiden, Sean, I think for giving me the opportunity to take some leadership roles. He didn't have to do that. He worked at a different institution, but he really rewarded some of the work I did, and that's one of the things I always look forward to. I try to give opportunities to people that take the opportunities and run with it and do a good job because the society does not run without service by the members. My presidents, to just an amazing group of leaders. Mark, dedicated to education, dedicated to the society. I've never seen somebody so much of an advocate for our specialty. Learned a lot. Gene's not here, but Gene, somebody who absolutely 100% adores vascular surgery and the Midwestern Vascular. Kelly, I've always said, you were my favorite president. You're the only one I would have done this 2 years for. You guided us through COVID, and that's why you get the extra heart. Raghu, there you are. I don't know how we did this together, but thank you for being there. And, enjoying time away on a cruise. Terry, I think most of you guys know, kind of ran the society for, 40 plus years to really make this possible. I think I want to thank everybody, looking backwards, but, enough of that. Let's look forward. I think we're going to be fine. Definitely MVSS is the best because of the people. You can look at the leadership. Bernadette is going to do amazing next year. You're going to also hate this talk next year. Ross Milner, who helps us run the program, and I thought I saw Rachel back there, who obviously are going to be leaders, and the counselors as well, Pat Muck, Pete Rossi, and Jill Glazer. Angela, who's taken over our society seamlessly. Thank you very much for all your help. With that, I was going to leave you a little bit of serendipity. So it's weird. You think about how you ended up at this moment in time in 2023, sitting here in Minneapolis, and for me, giving a talk in my home. It all because of COVID. It's weird. We were supposed to come here in 2023. We bailed on it, but then they were like, hey, listen, we're going to give you the hotel cheap. You're going in 3 years. I'm like, sounds good. And I was like, wait a second. I'm going to be doing another meeting in my hometown? This sucks. So, that's okay. But I have an even better story of serendipity. So I'm a California guy, man. You guys know this, right? But, I grew up in LA, UCI Medical Center. I went to UCLA. I was never going to even think about the Midwest. And I think some of you guys have heard this story. Except there was going to be this guy. I don't know who he was. This is a card guy who was going to come over and do, visiting professors, professorship. And I was going to be the fourth-year student walking him around. I remember asking Jen, hey, listen, what is this Wash U place? It's a flyover state, man. It's the Midwest. I'm not going to go there. But, I was like, it would be kind of embarrassing if I don't apply to this program, right? But she's like, well, how much, I don't know. I don't want to waste money. Really, at this point, I still don't know if it was the best or the worst $10 I ever spent in my life. But really, it brought me to the Midwest. It brought me to Washington University and Barnes-Jewish Hospital, met a lot of great people, and now to my job at Minneapolis Heart Institute. When it's said and done, I'm an LA kid, but really, I'm home in the Midwest. You guys, so this, we spent about 10 years. I mean, look at all the things I did in St. Louis. You can tell, this is all St. Louis. It's not just St. Louis. This is me in Chicago. This is me in Cleveland. And this is me in Minneapolis. You would have no idea I'm an LA kid. I'm full Midwest, full and through. So thank you very much for your attention. I want to say vascular surgery is the best. I don't even know how to say, just complete gratitude. Sorry, this is like the Oscars. You get called off. It's definitely a highlight of my career. It's surreal and profound, just gratitude and being very humble. I thank you. I have a lot of letters behind my name, but really just JJ is perfectly fine. So I want to thank you for your attention. I hope it wasn't too bad.